Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And welcome to this week's weekly recap, where we're going to be covering a little bit of basketball recruiting, a little bit of soccer, and a little bit of volleyball, and then, of course, the triumphant return of the wacky segment of the week after a one-week hiatus due to a Q&A. But we'll just go ahead and start right in with the 13th and final scholarship member of the men's basketball team, and that is the Mississippi State / Providence transfer, Will McNair Jr. And before we say anything else, I'm not sure if there's ever been another Mississippi State transfer that K-State has had. There may be maybe one that's escaping me here. It's Cam Carter.
No, I don't think you.
The bid is Cam Carter. Cam Carter came from Mississippi State. But that was not Will McNair's first stop. That would be a New Mexico State by way of high school, then Mississippi State, then Providence, where he was there for the foreign trip and then decided he was out. But now he is the final member of the Tang Cats. He's a 6'11", 265-pound forward. He is listed as a forward anyway. And Connor, you can sort of read off his stats, because even though it is sort of limited in terms of it's not too limited in terms of minutes, but nevertheless.
Yeah, I mean, he played in 34 games for Mississippi State this past year. He started once, but I think a lot of what we're gonna expect from him is to play basically the same role as Bebe, but maybe be a little better suited for it, because he is larger than Bebe. He's got, I think, 2 inches on him, plus probably like 25 or 30 pounds.
Yeah.
So he's a 6'11", 265 guy that I think we want to pretty much be just defend back to the basket guys effectively. And plus, I think we want him to be a good rebounder for us, which he did average 3.3 rebounds last season, and he did that in 12.5 minutes per game, so not bad there. Averaged 3.3 points per game on 45% from the field. Didn't take a ton of shots, and I think pretty much all of his shots are right at the rim. He did step out and take a few threes, but he only made like 3 or 4 all year last year, so he's not like an active threat. His free throw percentage is above 50%, which when you get to bigger guys, it's really all you can ask for.
Yeah.
But I like the ad. For one, you can't really ask for much more at this point in the portal season. And he fills a void that we needed. I think we got exposed a few times with really big back-to-the-basket guys. We just didn't have anybody to defend against them. I know we beat Kentucky, so we never think about it, but Oscar Tshiebwe destroyed us.
Yeah, no one remembers that fact, but Oscar Tshiebwe kind of just he turned us into pulled pork at times, and it was kind of disgusting.
Yeah, he was just so much bigger than everybody that we had. It just was not even funny. But Will McNair does have the size for that. He isn't immobile either. He's not someone I think we're going to want to switch on the perimeter, but he can block a few shots. He can throw down a dunk. In a pinch, he can take a wide open 3, and he will make it on occasion. More than some, less than most, but he does at least have some sort of shooting form for outside shooting. And if he can play 10 to 12 minutes a game, depending on who we're facing, like we're facing a team with like a 7-foot, 250 guy, we may see more Will McNair because he's going to be better at defending in the post than a guy like Naquan Tomlin or David Gasson, or even to an extent Jarrell Colbert. But he could be a very effective, hit the glass, just be a brick wall against guys that are similar size. If we can get that from him, I think this is a good ad. He's a grad transfer as well, so this is going to be his 1 year here unless he takes a COVID season. So all in all, it should be a nice addition here. You can't really ask for much better at this point in the portal season. So I'm pretty happy with the ad.
I mean, go back to when the first episodes that we were talking about what we wanted from the portal. I think my answers were an outside shooter, a distributor, and a big man. The only one that you could questionably say is like top tier distributor, but even then, that's just not how Tang wants to be. So he's a little bit better at basketball knowledge than I am. I think one could debate. No, there's no debate there.
Yeah, that was gonna be my follow up there, but you figured it out. So.
But yeah, like you and I pretty much. I think you may have had 2 outside shooters. I think that may have been your request, but we both had one big man.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah,
I've slept a few times.
Several times, but that pretty much not only does that round out the roster, that kind of rounds out our wish list. And this isn't the basketball preview episode. That'll come later, eventually, soon. I don't know.
November-ish.
Nope.
Well, it'll probably be late October, I guess.
Yeah, late October, somewhere in there. But this is, again, a tournament roster. It doesn't have the top tier, like the top end star power of Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson, but it is probably a top to bottom more complete and better roster.
Yeah. There's not a guy on the roster that I would feel uncomfortable getting, like 5 minutes in a pinch, which we probably couldn't say the same last year at times. But yeah, we've got a really deep roster. We've had role players like Will McNair, and we're going to have stars like Arthur Kaluma and Tyler Perry and Naquan Tomlin. So there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed on this roster, but I'm going to be really interested to see who emerges this year. Like, is Jarrell Colbert going to take the next step? Which of the freshmen is going to break out? Because it could be any 3 of them, I think, based on what we saw on the overseas trip. But it just kind of remains to be seen right now. But the first few games are going to be interesting, especially against some of the bye games that we'll have in Bramlage. B-U-Y, not B-U-Y-E, for what it's worth. Just to see who's hitting the floor more, who's doing more, who's more into it, who's getting more minutes, stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of talking about Will McNair to ultimately still get back to the point that he's a very solid add. If we'd added him in like April, I would have been scratching my head, but it's September, so
yeah,
got to be pretty happy.
Yep. So a lot of excitement for the men's basketball team. I didn't put this on the outline, but it's something that we can both quickly note. Women's team just revealed Big Game Gray's thoughts.
I love them. I've seen some discourse on them. Some people love them. Some people really, really hate them. I like them. I always liked the Big Game Grays when I was younger because that was kind of my formative years. So I grew up with some of those Frank Martin teams and some Bruce Weber teams as well with the Big Game Grays. And I know it's women's basketball, not men's, but I love the Wildcat script getting to women's basketball, which it makes sense since they're now the Wildcat script on the court now anyways, on one of the baselines. So it's... I really liked how they looked. I don't think they'll be the base uniforms. I think that'd be a little strange.
Yeah.
We'll see like a purple variant, a white variant, probably a black variant.
Has the women's team worn lavender?
I think they wore I think they've occasionally worn like a pink, for like breast cancer awareness maybe. Yeah. I'm not sure if they've ever actually worn like a true lavender, but. Maybe they would at some point. I'm not sure if they want to keep that just to the men's team for it to be a dominant color. Maybe we see it as a trim at some point. We'll have to talk to Nike about that, I guess. And they've been a little difficult as of late. So, but I'm pretty happy with the new uniforms. I think they look really great. And I'm hoping that we break them out in a few big games this year.
You say they look great?
I would say that, actually. The only thing I'm upset about is that I didn't think of that first.
Yeah, everything you said I agree with. I wanted to work in the women's basketball propaganda here.
No, I don't blame you at all. We got to start hyping up the machine that is women's basketball, especially given that some of the non-revs are currently struggling a bit. Which,
speaking of, now we can work into the non-revs, starting with soccer. And, oh boy. It was we only have one match to talk about, and that's the 2-0 loss to Oklahoma. Oklahoma went into this 4-4-1. This ends up dropping us to 2-5-3. Okay. We're going to talk about the one really embarrassing thing because it needs to be said. Kansas State University has a own goal to themselves this year.
Not fun.
That was Oklahoma's second goal.
Not very fun.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree. Oklahoma scored in the second minute of the entire game, and then the only other goal of the game was an own goal from K-State. Not what you want. But in terms of shots, K-State had 10 and 5 on goal to Oklahoma's 12 and only 2 on goal. So we were getting shots, and we were getting shots on goal. We just weren't able to make them go in, which is progress from the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty discouraging to see a similar shot line and more shots on goal. Oklahoma only had 2 shots on goal, and they both got through, or one of them got through, I should say, because the other one was an own goal. So, pretty disappointing in that sense. We got 6 corners as well. Oklahoma, sure, they had 12, but we still get 6. We should be able to do something with how effective we were at corners early in the year. But yeah, it's been a really, really sluggish, bad last weekend, last several games for the soccer team, which is really unfortunate because they got off to a really hot start and they just have not been able to put it together. Really since the UTSA game, it's kind of fallen apart. There's not been many good results, if any. So
7 matches since the last victory.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate, I'd say. 2 draws in that time, I guess. 3? 2?
We drew up against
Creighton and
Cincy. So 2.
Yeah. So, yeah, losing 0-2 to an Oklahoma team that was pretty mediocre. Granted, one of those goals was self-inflicted. We had opportunities and just didn't make the most of them. But still, I'm not really in the mood to make legitimate excuses right now for soccer. They're just going to have to figure it out at this point because this is really unsustainable. We're on track to have a very not good season. So we need to figure out how to get things turned around sooner rather than later. Get back in the win column, at least get some draws to get some points. But not a good showing against Oklahoma.
Yeah. The next 2 matches are up against Oklahoma State, who I believe at the time of that I last checked, they were like 8-2. And then TCU, who's receiving votes in the top 25. Both are on the road. Draw, I think, is the best outcome.
Honestly, the best outcome might be just scoring.
Yeah.
I think if we can straight up just get a goal by any means necessary, that might be enough to satisfy me for one of those games. Because we haven't scored in a while. I say that, it was Cincinnati, but we haven't been scoring much for a while.
Yeah.
We haven't had a multi-goal game since I think we beat UTSA.
Yep, it has been
almost a month since we've had more than 1 goal.
Yeah, it's been almost a month since our last victory and almost a month since our last multi-goal game.
Yeah, so not cash money right now is the soccer team, but maybe we'll get things turned around at some point. I know that there's been a lot of talk about how young this team is. They were younger than I thought they were going to be, but there is at least some obvious athleticism.
Yeah.
This team is definitely more athletic than teams of the past.
That's not hard.
Yeah, because we've had some pretty unathletic teams in the past, but we have some legitimate athletes on this squad, and it's just going to take some developing. Still, this season is a step back from where we were last year. I would have liked us to get a couple more true instant impact transfers, and we haven't really seen much of that. But still it's in spotty play at best. Would really want to see us turn it around, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I would describe it as well. So next up, we get to talk about volleyball, and volleyball hasn't fared too much better in this week. This would be the third weekly recap where we're kind of sad.
Yep.
But the first match was happening at the same time as the K-State MU game, so we weren't able to watch it. But it was a 3-0 loss sweep up against Rice in the Morgue, which not what you want. Scores went 25-15, 25-23, and then 25-21. So at least in the last two sets, we put up a little bit of a fight. But in the first set, this seems to be a common theme that the Mansfield era has begun with starting really slow in like most of the games.
Yeah. It's not just been offensively starting slow, but defensively as well, which has been really unfortunate. Some of it may be that Mansfield just doesn't have the players that he is hoping for his system. I don't really know because I'm not super dialed into volleyball strategy and whatnot. I just think the game is fun. So that's pretty much the
no thoughts, only vibes.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. That's the extent of what I know about it. But hitting .079 across the whole match for K-State is pretty bad. Allowing .231 as well, not great either. Just for the most part, a poor showing. Did okay in the second set, kept it close, but at home against Rice, I get Rice was receiving votes, but you really need to take at least a set. Yeah, which I get. There's going to be adjustment with the first year of a new head coach, completely new era for the volleyball team, but it would be nice if we could get a bit more consistent, really start challenging early, because we're just not playing well enough early in matches to ever deserve to really win. So we need to figure that out badly.
Yeah, but we can start with the stats, you know. Aaliyah Carter, 11 kills, Shaylee Meyer, 7, Cindy Boulding, 6. Aaliyah Carter and Mackenzie Morris both split the aces that K-State had. Cindy Boulding had 5 blocks, Aaliyah Carter 4, Dahlia Wilson 3. Izzy
Szolszewski
had 23 assists and Mackenzie Morris 5, Lauren Hinkle 4. Mackenzie Morris had 16 digs, Izzy
Szolszewski
had 12, and Lauren Hinkle had 11. So in terms of assists, there was, Izzy
Szolszewski
had a very good day. Sorry, I just jumped that one on you. But other than that, really unremarkable.
Yeah. Szolszewski has been a welcome surprise this year, but she's only got, I think this is her only year. I think she's a grad transfer.
Oh, so it's Elena Baca too.
Yeah, I think so. Much different player, but similar situation. Just coming from the West Coast, only to play 1 year and be a good player, but not stick around very long. So it's really unfortunate. Aaliyah Carter's just not been able to get it going. I think some of that is that we haven't had a consistent counter to keep teams honest with her.
Yeah.
So we've really got to have somebody put it together on the other side. Boulding has been a solid running mate, but her main game is clearing out the middle and pretty much just destroying whoever is left with a kill pretty much straight down with how tall she is.
Yeah.
So she can't do that every single play because they'll get used to it. So it's unfortunate. We'll see, I guess, how this team progresses, but it's not been great since the start of the year.
Yeah, and didn't really get any better tonight against another squad from Texas who's receiving votes. Rice is private, aren't they?
Yes.
So it's 2 private colleges from Texas receiving votes going to Manhattan, Kansas, giving us sweeps.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a nickel for... But this was another sweep for instead TCU instead of Rice. This game was at least marginally closer. 25-20, 25-16, then 25-23. However, there was never really a time where it didn't feel like TCU was comfortably in control, which I think that is the worst part about it, especially given the hitting percentages. K-State only hits .115 the entire game, though they did really pick it up in the third set, hitting .345, but hitting a 0 and then hitting a .054 in the first set, that's not a winning formula, especially against a squad that is receiving votes and does have a lot of really, really good pieces. For like I don't want to say that they're infinitely more talented, but they're definitely more talented as it stands right now.
Yeah.
But you have the individual stats, unless there's anything else you wish to note.
Aaliyah Carter led with 15 kills, and Nia Clinton and Sydney Bolding each had 7. We only had one ace on the day, and that was from Liz Grigorski. In terms of blocks, Sydney Bolding had 3, Dahlia Wilson had 2, and then Brenna Schmidt had 2. For assists, Lauren Hinkle had 17, Izzy Szolszewski did as well, and then Mackenzie Morris had 2. Then for digs, Mackenzie Morris had 14, Liz Grigorski and Lauren Hinkle each had 7. And I think something big to note is that the team comparison states that TCU had 14 blocks as a team, which is pretty horrific. That is pretty close to, I think on the broadcast they alluded to the record being like 16 for a 3-set match. So they got kind of close to setting an NCAA record for blocks, which is pretty bad.
Yeah.
There's no really other way to beat around the bush there.
Yeah,
but
no,
I mean,
there's no positive sell to that.
Yeah, Brianna Green had 10 blocks alone for TCU. I mean, yeah, we hit better in the third set, but TCU did too. We hit 345 in that third set, but they hit 371. So not a massive improvement really at all. At least we kind of improved by the end of the match there, but again, slow starts just really hurting us. It's frustrating. We get another shot at TCU, luckily, but this was another bad loss.
Yeah, we get another shot at them the day this comes out.
Mm-hmm.
At same time in a Morgan Family Arena at 6:30. So if you're in town for the game, drop by, see the Volleycats play. The arena is really nice. I think we've talked about the arena on the show before, but the morgue is really, really nice.
I've been in it, I think, 2 or 3 times now.
The Omaha game, the Nebraska game.
The other time I was in it was when they had that like open house thing for scrimmage.
Okay.
And they had like a scrimmage going on. So I think it's 3 then for me. Okay. Which I like every time I've been in it, I've still been astounded at how nice it is. The seating area, like the actual court and everything, it's all really, really nice. And it's obviously new. And even at the outside, I don't love the architectural choices that we made for the exterior. I think the interior is where the money went, which I guess you could argue that's more important.
Yeah.
I think you'd pretty effectively argue that. But the inside is really awesome. It's clear that a lot of thought was put into it as well. Sound is really good. The lighting is really good. They can do some cool stuff with the interior lighting as well. So if you get a chance, even though they haven't been performing well, it is worth going to go see it because it's a very intimate environment as well. Only holds 3,000. They pack them in, but it's still comfortable. So it's a loud arena when things are going well, just because of how compact it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely worth going to go catch a match or two if you have time. Because it's a pretty fun experience.
Yep. And the next match before the next episode, I should say, is a Wednesday at West Virginia. But that pretty much wraps up the actual news segment of the episode, which means that now it's time for everyone's absolute favorite segment. That is the wacky segment of the week. This week's question is, and this is an all-time question, so just assume that this is the game comes out the year after this player is done playing. Which K-State athlete would you put on the cover of an NCAA game?
For football?
For football, yes.
Okay. It's a tough question because the immediate temptation is to go for favorites, when there's also a really good argument for popularity. And there's a few options. I'm torn between, I think, two, and they're both based on popularity, although they're also still K-State legends. But I think I'm going to acquiesce and go with Darren Sproles. I think that's probably the right pick, but I think there's a really, really convincing argument for someone else. I had a lot of professional success. I'll see if you pick them.
The person I'm picking did not have any professional
So you're not
success.
going based off popularity then?
No.
Okay.
I'm going based off of the fact that they should have won a Heisman.
Okay. Well, there's two people then.
Klein 12.
Okay. There's two really good options for the criteria you selected.
Yeah. So you're going Sproles, that'd be what?
He played
03, 04?
Yeah, he finished in 04. I think he started in 2001.
Okay. So with how the rules worked, it'd probably be coming out in 05.
Yeah, that probably would have been 2005. The other player I was thinking of was Terrence Newman. Just again because of professional success and just he might be the best athlete that's ever played for K-State overall. He was just an absolute freak of nature and what he could do. I mean, Bill Snyder was putting him on offense just because of how athletic he was, and Bill very rarely gives someone special treatment like that. So you have to really earn it, I guess, to do that. But when you said someone that deserved a Heisman, I thought you were going Michael Bishop at first. But Colin Klein, again, also a fantastic pick as well. He did really take the world by storm back in 2012. Although now he's just kind of remembered as the guy who lost the Heisman to a guy that got scammed and a self-destructive quarterback. So unfortunately, that's
so
the reason.
Sad.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? But
I'd say it could happen to anybody, but there's a very small subset of people that could happen to.
Yeah. So it's there's obviously Deuce Vaughn is another good option around now. He didn't really ever achieve true national popularity at K-State, but he's kind of been like a side character that's well known for the last few months in the NFL just because of the draft day story and just his size. People have been catching on to him. So he wouldn't be a terrible pick either. Depending on how Avery's career goes, maybe he'll make an argument for it.
Declaring Avery as the greatest quarterback in history now.
Yeah, if he completes one pass this weekend, I think it's over.
Just get that, have him stay forever, give him infinite eligibility.
I think we should try and do that. I don't know if he'll go for it, but it doesn't hurt to try.
Yeah. He can come back after his professional career is done.
That he can. He'd be a player coach.
Yeah. All right. You have any final notes?
I do not.
All right. If that's the case, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us on just about anything at Aggieville Alleycats. If you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at ACEdwards00.
I am at Connor Baltazar, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store. Link in both the podcast description and our Twitter bio. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.